Greetings, fellow travelers. Welcome to the pub that you hang out with, otherwise known as the RPG Cave. I'm one of your hosts, the level 199 Dark Lord Ryan Turford, and I am joined, as always, by the level 199 Battle Alchemist, Dr. Garret Bland. How's it going, Garret?
I'm doing good, man. You know, I like to tell you many things before we get into the show, but I consolidated to 3 things. So I'm just going to hit those 3 things real quick.
I thought for a second there you were about to say you consolidated them into the dab, and the dab was you telling me 3 different things.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of things got into the dab too. A lot of effort there. But did you know today was a holiday?
I did. Well, it depends on where you live, because here in Canada, it's a different holiday than where you live, Garret.
Well, of course. Yeah. Because ours is President's Day. It's celebrating this one person that,
It's celebrating one person, but it's President's Day. Like plural?
Well, one person that's still alive, and there's many other people. Well, I guess just one acting role, and then all the previous presidents. I guess.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You're here in Canada today, Garret. It's Family Day.
It's
Family Day is a holiday that is observed by more and more businesses every year. I noticed that a lot of stuff was closed this year, which doesn't usually happen on Family Day. Of course, it's a holiday at my work. Because we kind of get every holiday off, but
cool.
It's the day to spend the day with your family, Garret.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. I always enjoy days off, so I'm just like, take advantage of it for sure.
I mean, I work today, so.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
I just got extra money, which was nice.
Well, that's nice. Second thing, I did play Lego Fortnite Saturday night with a friend. It's pretty fun. And
nice.
I'd be down to play with a community night with that, because it's like a better Minecraft. Okay. If I want to put it bluntly, it's like Dragon Quest Builders, but multiplayer and a little bit more freeform than that. Yeah.
We did want a community night for that not too long ago with Bowsah organizing it. But we had a lot of people joining. It was super fun. Lachlan and I built a house together.
You can upgrade villages. Desert. You can explore caves. There's raiders. There's it's so much stuff. It's really good. But third thing, the Nintendo Partner Showcase announced, and it's super early for me. Why is it 6 a.m.?
Well, isn't it 9? It's 8 or 9 p.m. Japan time.
Okay, so it's just kind of aligning with Japan more, because they normally do it simultaneously, right? They'll have a Japan version sometimes. You could check on that, but
I'm quickly checking. It's actually hold on. I misspoke.
Okay,
it's actually 11 p.m. Tokyo, Japan time. So actually, it's not a good time for anyone except for me in Eastern time zone, because it's 9 a.m., which is fine.
I know. Nintendo of America is in Seattle. What's going on? It's really messing me up here.
That does sound unusually early, because the Nintendo Directs are usually at 10 a.m. or later.
That's true. Just a little bit later. Now, here I don't want to wake up and look at my phone and just see all the announcements, because that's what happens, when these things are too early. So we'll see if I wake up in time for this.
All you got to do, Garret, if you don't wake up in time, is just don't check Twitter when you wake up. Just set aside 30 minutes of your time. Actually, you could do this the night before. You could set your.
I could just deny the app. Do not. You can't open this app the next day.
Because what you could do the next morning, you could build in 30 minutes, and then you just leave the link up to the Direct on your computer, because they'll probably have it set up ahead of time. I'm assuming, or just Nintendo's YouTube channel, and then you just go there and click the link and watch the Direct without any spoilers. That's what I did for the Final Fantasy VII State of Play, because we actually did a live reaction to that, but I couldn't do it until after I was done work that day, so it was long after it aired. But I managed to stay spoiler free the entire day.
Nice. All right, those are my 3 things, Ryan. I all that out of the way. Well, I'm ready.
Nice. Well, I mean, I'm going to delay things even further, Garret.
If I may, I love it.
Of course. First of all, as people could probably tell if you're watching the video version, my place is pretty empty at this point. I'm still not everything's gone. I've still got all these, figures and stuff on the top of this shelf. I got some figures still behind me on there. I still got to wrap up. I got some manga.
You got
down
some
there.
Books down. Okay, you got some manga in there. All right.
Yeah,
cool.
Got a lot of that stuff, but I've been doing a lot of packing, because this will actually be the last podcast I record in this apartment, So the next time you see me, which will be on the PlayStation Drive on Saturday or Chur-day or Saturday, whatever you prefer.
Jeez.
I will be in a different location, which will be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Also, for whatever reason, I still haven't packed this copy of VIP starring Pamela Anderson for the PS1. It's still just sitting here on my desk, Garrett. So there's that.
I just can't, man. Every time you pull up something from the table, it's a random. It's very specific too. It's like a celebrity, like woman from like the early 2000s licensed PS1 game.
What are you talking about?
No
the
joke.
Other time I had this other game with this other celebrity, Kiefer Sutherland, because it's 24 on the PlayStation
24. 2. Yeah. Of course.
I mean, there's probably celebrity women in that game, but you never know.
Of course there is, yeah.
Also, I got to give a shout out, Garrett, to not an RPG, but something that kept me company while I was packing. I was watching the Mega Man cartoon while I was packing because I had never seen it before. The Mega Man cartoon, for folks that don't know, came out in like the 90s. And it, stars Mega Man and his sister Roll, and they take down Dr. Wily's robots, and it's great. It's actually a pretty fun cartoon that I just never watched before, but I decided, what the heck? While I'm packing, I may as well watch these Mega Man cartoons, and I get to see like Top Man trying to be like this, playboy, and then like Magnet Man using his powers of magnetic ability to like throw robots around and stuff like that. And it is really cool. It's a cool show. So there you go.
Nice.
I like Mega Man. So I like tangents like this every once in a while, Garrett. We should do this more often. But
yes, let's do it.
But before we do that, Garrett, we should probably clear the dungeon, get to that raid boss as quickly as possible. So folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of amazing ways you can do that. Number one, if you're watching the live stream right now, over at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, or if you're watching the video on demand later, don't forget to slightly tap that subscribe button, smash kick that like button, and let us know in the comments below what you think the future of RPGs on PlayStation is like, or do you like playing role-playing games on PlayStation? Let us know. We would love to hear from you. Also, if you're listening on audio feeds, don't forget to, of course, rate us. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, maybe leave us a nice Apple Podcast review or a Spotify comment as well. Those are pretty cool. And also, just hitting that 5-star rating on the podcast feeds really helps. Also, if you want one big podcast feed with the entire Carpool Gaming cinematic universe on it, you can head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming. We also have a website, carpoolgaming.com, for all of your merch needs, including your RPG Cave t-shirt or any other t-shirts from any of our other shows you want to check out there, like that limited edition Xbox Drive 300 t-shirt, which no longer exists. The t-shirt that Garrett's wearing.
But I got it. I love it.
Garrett got it.
It's a great shirt.
You got it. Real quick, Garrett, before we move into our reading from the sacred text, I noticed as well, we've been posting a lot about Persona 3 in the Discord. People keep asking when are we going to talk about this game some more? I think you and I are both like similar points in the game, because I'm in September and you're in August.
September. Okay. Yeah. I'm in August. Yeah.
So we're getting close. I would say we're maybe like a month away from finishing this game, like both of us. I would imagine. So.
I would hope I'm done in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah,
I would say, for me personally, because I'm not going to do Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So I'm focusing all of my efforts into finishing this game before Unicorn Overlord and before Dragon's Dogma 2 just swipes me away. Into the RPG vastness.
I was gonna say, how good does Unicorn Overlord look now?
It looks so good.
Oh my god!
Awesome. I just want to play it so bad. It actually reminds me of like a mobile game, not in a bad way. It's just like it has that 2D story-driven thing, and it's a tactical RPG. It's just like, man, that'd be so. I would love playing that on the Steam Deck for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Can't wait.
But also Kevin Ainsworth responded to us from last week's show. So he would be very open to joining us to talk about Persona 3. So look out for that sometime in the future, folks. Probably in the next month or so, we'll try and organize an episode for Persona 3, whenever we finish it, essentially.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. But enough about that, Garrett. It is time to read from the sacred texts, because we were doing part 2 of our 3-part series. Last week we did Nintendo.
Yes.
Which is just fitting because we're getting the partner showcase this weekend. Maybe there's a whole bunch of RPGs there. Probably not. It's probably just gonna be all farming simulators, Garrett, and
80% farming simulators, 20% cool indies.
Yeah,
that's my guess. Yeah,
maybe
and Hi-Fi Rush.
maybe the summoning circles will work, and maybe Hollow Knight Silksong will reemerge. We'll see.
My gosh,
Guess I'll find out.
I just don't want to see that anymore.
I just want it to be over at this point.
Yeah, I want it to be over too.
Yeah. But until then, we're going to talk about the state of RPGs currently in the year of our Lord 2024 in PlayStationville. This time we're turning our attention, our gaze, the eye of the RPG cave has been turned to the realm of PlayStation this time around. So we're going to talk about, where the state of PlayStation role-playing games are and where things are going. And I've got a couple little other extra bonus things for us to talk about here before, of course, we get to everyone's questions. So first of all, Garrett, it might be of no surprise to you at all that the console of choice, the console du jour for a lot of people when it comes to role-playing games is the PlayStation 5, because it has, it pretty much gets almost every role-playing game out there. Except for the ones that only come to PC, basically, or the one or two Switch exclusives, essentially.
Well, now you got Xbox RPG exclusives, and you have a lot of Nintendo RPG exclusives. But I see your point in terms of just like third-party JRPGs, and like just third-party in general. You get everything in PlayStation. It's kind of like a given compared to other systems.
Because for a lot of developers, it's just the default platform. When they want to develop like a high-profile game that isn't meant for just portable consoles, generally speaking, it targets the PlayStation 5. So, in fact, that's one of the things we learned from Digital Foundry. Like looks at a bunch of different games lately. It's just like they run slightly better on the PlayStation 5 because you can definitely tell like they were like that was like the lead platform for a lot of things.
Right. That was the focus of development for sure. And I think it's just a matter of how things are loaded into the PS5. It's a little bit more custom than just a regular PC or even Xbox. So it's pretty interesting.
It also helps too that like last year in particular was very strong for role-playing games on PlayStation. It was a big year for RPGs in general last year, but more so even on PlayStation. I think it was like probably the best platform for role-playing games last year. And this year it's shaping up to probably be the best one again. We'll go through them and kind of talk about this a little bit. And there's going to be a lot of crossover from last week's episode because a lot of some of these are also coming to Switch. So we definitely have a little bit of crossover here. But let's start with the games that we currently have out as far as role-playing games. Because if you remember from last week, Garrett, there were literally none. There were no role-playing games out on Switch. But that's very different from PlayStation because, of course, we got Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which is an exclusive to PlayStation. When I say exclusive, I mean console exclusive. Most of these are also on PCs as well. But Persona 3 Reload and Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, which came out last weekend. A lot of people like that game. I know Kevin just finished it and said he loved it. So
it's his favorite game of the gen.
He said it's one of his favorite games of the gen. I was just crystal clear.
That is. It was just surprising to see, given how many games he plays. So
true.
Yeah, cool.
But I also know I've heard from other people who are playing this game besides Kevin,
it's good,
who also really love this game too. So
it's piquing my interest. I really want to play Vampire as well. That's been long in my backlog, and I like this action RPG type of elements with emotion with it. So yeah, maybe pick up Banishers this year for me.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, this is definitely like I've mentioned on the show before, but Banishers is very much for me the kind of a wait for sale kind of game. Since I'm not going to be able to get to it right away anyways, because of all these other games that are coming out that we're going to get to in a second. I know that it's the one that's going to sit on the back burner for me. So it's just, I may as well wait till it's on sale before I grab it. But, so those are the games we've got already. So only 4 RPGs, but that's 400% more than the Nintendo Switch has at the moment, which is something.
It's not Golden Sun though. Come on, Ryan.
It doesn't count. That's an old game that just got re-released on the Switch Online service.
That's true.
Do you want me to count all the? Do you want me to count Grandia on PS1 coming to PlayStation Plus Premium?
Sure.
Because like good. I can count that if you want. That technically came out this year.
Oh, okay. Well, good for them.
Yeah. Grandia, by the way, made by the same company that made Lunar, Garrett. if it makes you feel
Really?
better. Yeah.
Okay, I've heard lunar and I've heard lunar, like the moon. Is it lunar? As it pronounces?
They're both the same. They both mean the same thing, Garrett. Like
Oh, okay.
it's the difference between tomato and tomato. It's the same
Is
thing.
it though? I've
It
never
kind of
heard
is.
lunar. Okay, all right, sounds
Maybe
good.
I'm just weird. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I almost swore there. That was not good. Future Ryan's gonna have to edit that out. Okay, anyways. Let's talk about the games that are upcoming, Garrett, for
Sure.
PlayStation, because this is a long list. In fact, I purposely did not write down all of them because at my count there was like 60 games coming to play, 60 role-playing
My
games coming to
goodness.
PlayStation this year. So
Yeah.
we're gonna do the ones that are like the more like, the high profile ones, the ones that like, we know that you guys are excited about. So number one, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out next week. Of course, it's an exclusive on PlayStation.
That's the biggest RPG console exclusive you can ever think of, like this year. And even it just fun. I just want to go over how just important Final Fantasy VII remake and Rebirth coming up really is. And just in terms of just the PlayStation ecosystem, because they really have a stronghold with that franchise. Now, I mean, Final Fantasy 16 was great and all, and it's still console exclusive, although I think it's gonna, it will come to PC this year. That's what they've been hinting towards.
Well,
But
they didn't
man,
hint at it. They already announced it.
we
just
announced
don't have the
it.
release
Sorry.
date. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But with Final Fantasy 7, the remake series, or whatever you want to call it, they have it under they have it under their belts. Like Xbox is not gonna get it. PC is not gonna get it. At least, well, no, actually, PC will get it. Sorry.
Yeah,
they
PC got
do have it.
the last one, and I think
That's true.
from what we saw from the trailer for Rebirth, and I'd have to fact check this because I don't remember what the exact wording says at the bottom, but the exclusivity window is actually shorter. I think this time around, I think it's only like
interesting,
like 6 months or something, before it can come to other platforms. So I actually suspect we might even see before the end of the year it comes to PC.
Maybe, yeah.
But
cool,
definitely they're not coming to Xbox. I think they signed some kind of deal a long time ago, like back in the early PS4 era when they first announced 7 Remake was coming, that like these games would never come to Xbox.
It's just that's pretty big. I think if you talk about the current state of RPGs in PlayStation, Final Fantasy VII series, whatever you want to call it, is the biggest one presently in
I was gonna say it's probably the biggest role-playing game that's coming out this year at this point. And honestly, it might be one of the biggest games to release just this year at all. I mean, it's hard for me to say that because obviously Power World exists and Power World,
of course,
sold like crazy. No, but
concurrent players, man.
Well, I mean, even just the number sold for Power World is like it's
pretty big,
10 million plus. I don't think Rebirth gets to Power World numbers, but I do think it's going to be in the territory of like a God of War Ragnarok or Spider-Man 2, probably like closer to the Spider-Man 2 numbers. So I do think it's going to be a big game. Of course, though, about a week and a half later, we got Unicorn Overlord. We talked about that last time. Still awesome. We're excited about it. Dragon's Dogma 2, of course, coming out like right around my birthday. I think it comes out the day after my birthday, which is exciting.
Oh, yeah, that's exciting.
I know. And the same day, an exclusive RPG comes to PlayStation, Rise of the Ronin from Team Ninja, which I'm excited about because I love Team Ninja's games. And this one time you play as a ninja, and it's very much like a Souls-like RPG. I like Neo a lot, and I like Team Ninja's like Souls-like games a lot more than FromSoft's actually. So I'm actually pretty excited about this one.
So I actually saw the latest, the latest gameplay trailer in the state of play for Rise of the Ronin, and it actually reminds me a lot of a very fast, versatile Assassin's Creed, like because I'm a classic Assassin's Creed fan. I've played a lot of like the 2 and Revelations and 3, and that specifically, just like more in terms of feudal Japan or whatever, is like an Asian setting, with that character just grab hooking everywhere and just going all crazy. It doesn't look too Neo or too Dark Souls or that type of vibe in my head. It looks a little bit more arcadey to me, which I'm interested.
I was just gonna say it doesn't look like they've shown a lot of those elements yet, but they've described it in interviews as that's the kind of game this is.
I see.
So But at the same time, it's like those games like Neo, as an example, have been much more in the fast action kind of game, like genre with RPG elements than the traditional Soulsborne games are. Like they don't move at the slow pace that a lot of
they're pretty fast for sure. Yeah,
like this is actually probably a lot more similar to something like Wolong, which came out last year, actually.
Right. I'm interested to see what this game looks like, and just more in terms of reviews. Of course, the same day as Dragon's Dogma 2, so it's not going to be in my radar anytime soon. But
I think you and I will split up on that, because like you'll play Dragon's Dogma 2 and I'll play Rise of the Ronin. I think that's like the perfect compromise. I mean, we both could just play this copy of VIP starring Pamela Anderson on the PlayStation 1.
Oh, buddy.
And of course, coming up next in April, of course, we got Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes and Saga Emerald Beyond, because I'm reminding Garrett once again that Saga Emerald Beyond is a game that exists.
Is that's coming to Nintendo Switch and PlayStation, right?
It is. It's coming to both.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I only said that because last week we talked about this and you're like, I keep forgetting that game is actually coming out.
Yeah, now you remind me weekly that game exists and it's coming out, and we'll see how it goes. I it would be interesting if it was a good like a good reviewed game. That would be cool to see for the Saga series. But
well, they've had good reviewed games, but they're all older games. Like none of the newer Saga games are reviewed well.
I see.
And that same week, we also got Sandland, which is the first time we're talking about Sandland. That's the Akira Toriyama game based off this old manga that he made. Of course, Akira Toriyama is the creator of Dragon Ball Z, but he also did like all the art for all the Dragon Quest games. And this is like an action RPG in like the Sandland license. And so Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes, Saga Emerald Beyond, and Sandland all come out the same week. Because of course
that's just ridiculous.
What are we even doing here?
Yeah, Sandland is it Bandai Namco?
It is.
Okay, that's Bandai Namco, and Saga is Square Enix. And what was the other game?
Eiyuden Chronicle.
Okay, yeah, they're indie studio. Okay, yeah, so they're just doing their thing.
I think that one's actually being published by 505 Games.
That's cool. Yeah. Okay.
I can't remember, but anyways,
I'm excited for Eiyuden Chronicles. I haven't played Suikoden, so I don't know what I'm getting into in terms of that, but I have seen like the gameplay overview of that specific game, and it looks great. It looks like it would be a cool way to go through that type of style, revitalized and from an indie studio and from the original creators over there. So, and it's going to be on Game Pass. I'll play over there for sure. And then Sandland, did you watch the gameplay overview video that I shared today? I'm curious.
I didn't see the one from today. No.
Okay. I want your impressions of after the video. It's a 10-minute video that I put on Discord. I think it just got released today or whatever. And it's just a gameplay overview of what Sandland is. And what are the kind of mechanics and combat and the quests and the skill tree system and the vehicles. And it looks dope. I got more excited after going through that 10-minute trailer about the game than anything else. I remember Grand Blue, we were hyped for it, but it was more of a visual, aesthetically pleasing game than anything. It wasn't anything to do with the gameplay, but Sandland, they went really deep into this. So I'm holding reservations for you until you kind of go through that trailer. So
I do kind of want to watch it because the thing is with Grand Blue, the reason why I think for the hype from me fell off for that was just in the trailers we had for it, the combat looked like it was fun, but they didn't show like you just chipping away from at the boss for like 5 to 10 minutes or longer sometimes with some of these boss fights. And I'm just like, no, thank you. I'm good. Because that was one of the things I found with the demo right away that kind of, irked me a little bit with that game. But Sandland, I skimmed through the trailer a little bit. Of course, I promise I'll watch it after the show in earnest. But that you got me more interested in that game, because that game was
Yeah.
like not at all on my radar or something to be excited about.
Yeah, it has like action combat with your individual characters, but you also have, of course, you have skill trees associated with them, but also the vehicles. And the vehicles, there's multiple vehicles and there's multiple upgrades with each of the vehicles, and they kind of serve their own purpose and against bigger bosses. And I think it looks pretty cool. So, yeah, I'm more excited about Sandland after that.
Well, next up, Garrett, in May, we got Cards RPG, The Misty Battlefield. That one's coming to Switch, but also PlayStation.
Nice.
And then the last game we have a release date for, which is in June, I believe, is Black Myth Wukong. This is the game that's the Journey to the West style game that is like an action role-playing game, which has been in development forever at this point.
Yes. And one of the China hero projects that PlayStation funded. So yeah,
but
that'd be cool.
Even though PlayStation funded it, it is coming to every platform, even Xbox, which is
even
weird.
Xbox,
but except Switch, not coming there because we didn't talk about it.
It won't run on there for sure. It looks pretty high. It looks high caliber for sure. Very fluid action combat. Yeah, every time I see trailers of them, looks pretty good.
Yeah,
for sure.
A lot of people are excited about that game. So
yeah.
So those are the games we know have release dates this year, like exact release dates. That's for the ones that are dated for 2024. Of course, we've got The Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak, Garrett. Of course, we got another Legend of Heroes game every year. There's another one this year.
Well, I heard
just for Savoy Prime. Savoy
Prime.
Yeah.
I heard that Trails Through Daybreak is not turn-based, or it's a mixture of turn-based and action. Like it's kind of like Metaphor ReFantazio a little bit.
I saw that and I'm like, that's weird, but also I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm also probably not going to play it because it's still part of the same giant storyline.
It connects 50 characters across all the Trails series. Can't wait.
Yeah. But then also, of course, we talked about this one last week's show too. The Legend of Legacy HD Remastered is also coming to PlayStation this year.
Oh no!
Yeah, of course, the Alliance Alive prequel, originally a 3DS game, coming to PlayStation 5 this year.
I didn't know they had a prequel, but they do, and I can't. No, I'll ignore it.
Yeah. Next up, you mentioned it just now, Garrett. Metaphor ReFantazio. Come to PlayStation this year. Of course, the newest game.
I'm down.
The Atlas, the team that made Catherine Full Body. That was their last game. So gonna be interested to see how they do with this one.
So I question for you. So the Persona Studios, is there two of them, right? Okay, and they kind of rotate. One's the Persona like mainline.
One is just referred to as the Persona team.
Okay, yeah, and then there's this other off, like kind of not off brand, but like
Studio Zero is what they're referred to as.
I see. Okay, cool. I'm down. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see that, especially because it borrows elements from Persona, but as you mentioned, it's got like that action combat, especially for like dealing with lower level enemies. That'll be like an interesting mix. And I like to see this formula with like a new IP.
Me too.
It. Especially with like a new setting and stuff too. Like I think like this is going to be a breath of the fresh air for the Persona games in a way, and I think that this is going to be pretty cool. So this is one I'm pretty excited about.
It has I like the aesthetic of it. It has a edginess to it, and art styles. Man, what does it remind me of? Like a storybook kind of. I don't know. It has a lot of like outlines more than any kind of Persona game. That's more just anime-ish for sure. So it looks aesthetically awesome to me. Like I'm down to play this. So
nice. Next up, we got Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, which we talked about a long time ago on our pen and paper RPG episode. That game, of course, was supposed to come out last year, but did get delayed to this year.
I'm developed by the Chinese Room, right?
It is developed by the Chinese Room for some reason, but what?
They recently did they did an update with this. Did you see it?
I did not see it.
Oh my gosh. Man, so I went through a little bit of the gameplay of this, and it just reminds me of it really reminds me in terms of just aesthetics, just like the movements and everything. It reminds me of Redfall. Not in terms of gameplay, because that's first person shooter, but
Right.
I'm just it just turns to first person view and just like how the vampires are going around. It looks very generic
Okay.
in a way, but at the same time, I don't know how it feels, so I don't have any judgment of like how the
Mhm.
gameplay looks, but it just looks like you're just beating up zombies and monsters over and over again in slow motion.
Hmm.
That's pretty much how it looks to me.
That's
Um,
really weird because like that sounds very different from the original game, which the original game was very like the original Bloodlines was very similar to something like Fallout or Elder Scrolls,
no, yeah,
but with less exploration.
this was much more action arcadey focused
Okay.
combat, where you're kind of just going and trashing monsters left and right. You have magic abilities, of course, but also like you go into this encounter into like a just a monster or whatever, and it just goes slow motion. It's like, all right, now punch him like 20 million times,
Oh
and I'm
my
like,
god.
all right, we'll see how this goes.
Well, that's
So
disappointing. That kind of makes me
yeah.
sad a little bit because I was looking forward to like something that was kind of like the original Bloodlines, which is kind of what they announced it was going to be when they announced this. So,
I think
uh,
there's some choice behind it, but that I'm just saying what I've seen in
yeah.
terms of just the gameplay.
Maybe
So,
they maybe they did like
mhm.
a trailer focusing on what the combat's like, but not necessarily what the full
Yeah,
like
yeah.
gameplay was like. So, but um
Looks interesting.
yeah. Next up this summer,
This
we have
summer,
summer 2024 for this one. Visions of Mana comes out. I of course am very excited about this one. I love the
that'd be
Mana
cool.
series, so I'm very excited that we're getting a proper brand new entry in the Mana series for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah,
And I'm
like
excited for it. But weird that it's not coming to Switch, but I think we talked about that before, but I think that's like a Switch 2 game probably. But
definitely a Switch 2 game. Also, I just want to shout out how terribly wrong we were with Switch 2 releases. Now we're just hearing
oh,
last week's news.
well, I mean, we're not
Uh,
wrong if they haven't if
that's true.
they decided at the last minute to push it to next year, Garrett. That's not on us.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
We were only working with the information we had access to at the time, Garrett.
That's true.
It's just like the information I had at the time when I picked up this copy of VIP starring Pamela Anderson on the PlayStation 1.
That's the third time in this episode. My goodness. I want to, talk more about Visions of Mana because I do want to play the previous one. Is it Trails of Mana, right?
Trials.
Trials, right. I do have that on Switch.
Okay.
Like physical. And it's like that definitely sounds a game I want to play before
Okay.
I get into Visions, but I think Visions of Mana could be a Game Pass game. It's kind of there's some been rumblings, some hints. We'll see.
I mean,
We'll
it
see.
could be, but they also haven't announced it either. So,
That's true.
yeah, that's a bet you're going to have to take yourself, Garrett, at this point.
Well, I won't buy it day one for sure
Yeah,
because I'd rather go through trials
yeah.
first
I will
than
also
anything.
mention that the mana games are not usually connected in any way. They're usually again like Final Fantasy, where they're
Right.
like independent stories that take place in the same world, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. But next up, speaking of your favorite company in the world, Garrett, Falcom, we
Oh, of
got
course.
Ease X Nordics coming out this year,
That's
which
true.
actually came out in
He's 10.
Japan because that came out in Japan last year, but
Mhm.
coming out in North America this year. And it had really good reviews in Japan. I think it was 84 on Open Critic.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really
So
good.
again, I think they released a trailer for it not too long ago to announce kind of the
That's true.
North American version coming. And it looks cool, but it looks like another Ease game to me. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know when I'm going to play that game at some point. Maybe when
I
Samurai
want to
Prime forces me
play
to play it. But
Ease 8 first. That's the one I have. So I'll play that first before I even think about even Ease 9 or Ease 10.
yeah.
They're kind of, they're kind of this. I'm not saying they're the same exact game, but they're just very close, with one
Mhm.
another. That I think I can have a good experience first trying to go through Use 8 before I try
Yeah.
anything else. Yeah.
And it's like a weird series too, because like the series, like the E series has the main character is the same across all the games, but
Yeah.
the
Okay.
story is it doesn't carry across all the games, which is weird to me.
Yeah, it is kind of weird. It's
Yeah.
just this red hair. Yarden asked, why is it called Ease? A wise Ease? I don't know. Ask Japan.
So someone in the TurboGrafx-16 era thought it was a good idea to call the game Ys, so they did.
YS. That's it.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit actually on the Falcom episode that we did a long time ago.
A long time ago now, yeah.
Yeah, and then the last game that we know about coming to the old PS5 this year is Zenless Zone Zero, which is an exclusive. This is, of course, is the new Hoyoverse game. So another game from the Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail developers coming to PlayStation 5 later this year. And of course, it's an exclusive to PlayStation 5, just like all the other games from them. And it's another action RPG, kind of like Genshin Impact, but with new characters, Garrett. New characters.
Brand new characters to get all your money.
Yeah, in a different world, but
in a different world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I like Honkai Star Rail, but I'm also like not the type of person who's like super into their games.
Yeah, I think they're well made. I think they're pretty good to get into, but I think it's just a little too much stuff going on in the HUD, in the screen. It's a little too much for me. And I just I can't get into this. It's too mobile for me. I like to say,
yeah. So yeah, this was the list of the games that again that I highlighted. There are so many more coming, including again just so many RPGs that are basically being re-released on PS5 after having PS4 versions, like multiple Trails games and other games. So I didn't mention some of those. So if your favorite RPG that's upcoming didn't get mentioned, I'm sorry. We only had so much time on the show to talk about role-playing games. So either way, PS5 sitting pretty with role-playing games already this year.
It is.
And there's still probably way more role-playing games to be announced for this year that we don't even know about yet at this point.
Right.
So
and would you agree the big exclusive console exclusive is Rise of the Ronin and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah.
Those are the big two that PlayStation has going for them.
Yeah. Grand Blue also sold pretty well as well. I know it's I think it's over 1 million copies already.
It is, yeah.
So they already announced that. So I mean, I imagine sales for that are also really good. But you're right. Like I think Rise of the Ronin's like the big kind of first party published exclusive. Right. And then Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is probably just one of the biggest games on PlayStation at all this year, let alone in the role playing game realm. So
yeah.
Either way, is PlayStation sitting pretty good role playing games in the year of our Lord 2024. I think like of the three companies, and we'll talk about Xbox next week, but I think of the three companies, they're probably the strongest, which is to be expected. Like this does not surprise me at all, Garrett.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me either. You know me, like I'm not really big into PlayStation in terms of its ecosystem. I was back in, I got my PS4. That was my first really PlayStation console that I really dug into as a gamer in 2013, 2014, right? And that was my sole console for like a good while. And then I kind of easily went back to Xbox, and I just went agnostic. I have PC and Switch now. I think, in terms of just like the third party support and then the first party published Rise of the Ronin and everything, it's great. Yeah, the games are great on PlayStation. I like the trophy system a lot too. And if I just didn't, it's just where you put your digital library. If I didn't put it in Steam, if I didn't put it in, it will mainly with Game Pass with Xbox, and it would definitely be on PlayStation, and I would just play it from there, and it would just work just fine there compared to these other systems I play. In terms of just like in-house first party, I'm just at this point, I mean, there's really no RPGs and absent of it, and that's just the nature of the business, the nature of what it is right now. It's not like anything bad or anything like that.
They're definitely like Sony, of the three first party companies, they're the ones that put the least amount of money into role playing games themselves,
and rightfully so, because they have enough support. They kind of shut down it was just Japan studios. The ones that were kind of making these smaller experimental games, including some RPGs here and there. And now it's just like, okay, we got our kind of cream of the crop AAA studio, story-based, action games. And then we have our initiative going more live service. And that's where I just see the direction. I know people would love Bloodborne to come back. That's the one game I hear time and time again from Soulsborne fans that this game needs to be remade, needs to be ported over to PS5. And it's such a mystery to me that it hasn't come back or hasn't been even hinted at all. Yeah. Maybe they were probably thinking about it. They have some stake in From Software now, a good percentage. But yeah, I just it's like Hollow Knight Silk Song. It's just like it'll never come.
Well, it's also one of those things too where I also don't feel like they even From Software wants to go back to Bloodborne at this point. Like I don't think they want to do a Bloodborne remake or anything like that. Like Sony would have to find another studio to do that, whether it's Bluepoint or someone else. Like so I feel like if that happens at all, it'll be like a remake from like Bluepoint or something, since they did the Demon Souls remake. Like that.
Yeah, so that's a good question. What is Bluepoint up to? Do they have any current projects going on? We don't know, and it is not going to come out for a while too.
We do know that they mentioned a long time ago that the next game that they are developing is most likely a new IP of some kind.
That's cool. That's really cool. I'm interested to know what they're doing, because they've been doing all this remakes of first party games and they've been really true to them.
Well, that's all that's all they've done. Like whatever new IP would come out would be their first original game, because they don't really have original games. They've only done like remakes or ports of other games before. So they kind of remind me of Aspire in a way, because when Aspire mentioned that they were going to do announced when they were going to do the Knights of the Republic remake, that would have been like the first like actual factual like game for them that was developed like from the ground up there for them. So
I think Bluepoint knocked it out of the park with Demon Souls. I think people who are into the Soulsborne and wanted a PS5 just right then and there, boom, they got it. They got that nice fill with Demon Souls remake from Bluepoint. I'm curious what the new IP would be, because they do technically a good job with these other games. So that's my thinking.
And Jordan also brings up a good point in the chat as well, because we just got the news this week about Elden Ring. I think Jordan says, I think they want to own all their IPs. I think that they just got the rights to Elden Ring back from Bandai Namco, which they did. Because you're right. Like I think they want to be invested in properties that they own.
Yes.
Because likewise, I don't even think they own the Dark Souls IP either. I think Bandai Namco also has that, or maybe they got it back a long time ago too. Maybe I missed that news.
I don't know. I know they. Well, yeah, I don't know too much of that. So,
but I also think they're just done with Dark Souls too. So I think they're very much.
Yeah, they want to do other stuff for sure.
Yeah. I think the only sequel we get from them anytime soon is Elden Ring 2. Otherwise, I think From Software is just moving on to something else if it's not Elden Ring 2. I think that's whatever their next game is. So, or maybe another Armored Core game after Armored Core came out last year. But it'll be interested to see what comes out. But as far as first party, it's too bad, because back in the PS1 era, we did get a lot of first party PlayStation role playing games, because they did try a lot of that stuff. We got Legend of Dragoon, we got Wild Arms, we got a bunch of different stuff from Sony, like a bunch of different role playing games. Whereas the closest we've gotten to a modern day role playing game from Sony, besides the the Demon Souls remake, is Horizon, with Horizon Forbidden West as an example. It's that one's debatable. I think it's debatably a role playing game.
I think Ghost of Tsushima is debatable too. I think both of them, those two, are as close as you're gonna get. They're action games with RPG elements. In general,
yeah, they're on the precipice. They're in the Final Fantasy 16 space, if I might call it that, Garrett.
Bold.
I would personally, I would love to see Sony come back in a big way with role playing games, whether it is a Wild Arms sequel or reboot of some kind, or even something like Legend of Dragoon. Even if they had one of their studios remake something like Legend of Dragoon, because that's a really beloved role playing game from the PS1 era. I think people would flip their lids for that. I think people would be pretty excited.
They ported all of their Wild Arms. They ported
not all yet.
Not all of them. Okay.
There's 5 of them.
I know there's 5. So how many have they released so
2.
far?
So Wild Arms 1 and Wild Arms 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was more.
Because Wild Arms 3 is also a PS2 Classic as well. So actually, technically, you're right. 3 of them. I forgot about Wild Arms 3, but
Okay.
Wild Arms 4 and Wild Arms 5 are PS2 games. So, I mean, maybe one day when they eventually port new PS2 games to PlayStation 5, maybe. But Yarden actually brings up a good point with this, saying God of War turn-based role-playing game, give it to me. Like, that's something also I would like to see maybe them do with some of their existing IPs, is maybe have like an RPG spin-off or like a tactical role-playing game or something like that, spin off of an existing IP. Like what if they did like a Horizon tactical role-playing game or something? Or what if they did?
I would love Horizon. Yeah, tactical role-playing game, or I was thinking more like oh man. Like over the top kind of turn-based game. Not tactical like 2D, but like which is more orthogonal. That'd be kind of cool. Cover-based shooter type of RPG. Like man, why am I
Valkyria
blanking
Chronicles?
on this guy? Valkyria Chronicles is one. What was I thinking? Oh my gosh. I don't know why I'm drawing up
Natural
blank on
Doctrine.
games.
You were thinking of Natural Doctrine, clearly.
Of course I am. Yeah. XCOM. That's the one I was thinking of. I was like, wait, I have it in my head.
Garrett, now that you mentioned that, you know what Sony IP would be really good for like an XCOM style game is Killzone. I think that would make like
I would be down.
XCOM style role playing game. Like that would be super cool. You know, fighting the Hellgast, taking down Colonel Raddick. Oh man, that'd be super cool. So yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So I hope, we see that one day. I'm not, holding my breath at this point, because Sony at this point is just, I think is content enough to just license role-playing games from other studios and make them exclusive on their platform. But I do want to maybe see them kind of revisit role-playing games a little bit.
I would like for them to experiment on other games too. It just sounds like they want to make safe bets now, from now on, the games that they know that they're going to sell / going for that live service mentality. It makes sense. But yeah, smaller games is just it's a high risk, little reward kind of deal for them. It's just they'll invest so much resources on games that may not sell just as well as other AAA games. So yeah, I think Microsoft, just pulling it around, I think Microsoft has that avenue just because of Game Pass service. It's just one of those things that they have that kind of, because they're Microsoft, they have that safety net, but also at the same time, they're providing to a service, then they're selling it a la carte too, but they're really looking at engagement in the service more than actual hard number sales, which PlayStation needs.
Yeah, because like PlayStation Plus is a thing. They could do more with it, but they just choose not to. Like
which is
totally fine, because that's not their strategy. But well, there you go. I think that wraps up our topic on PlayStation. But we're gonna let some of our friends into the cave with us, Garrett, because we're gonna party up a little bit. And a lot of these questions are actually PlayStation related, which is pretty cool. So let's start with Skycatcher Gaming, who asks, what grade would you give PlayStation for its PS Plus classic RPG library compared to Nintendo Switch's head-to-head? Which one is better? Well, Skycatcher Gaming, first of all, there's barely any role-playing games on Nintendo Switch Online, like at all.
Yeah, there's like nothing.
We rejoiced when Golden Sun came, because I think it's probably one of the only ones besides the Sega Genesis selection.
Yeah.
Which has Shining Force 1 and 2 in it.
And Phantasy Star.
Yeah, that's true. Phantasy Star 4. Yeah.
And that's pretty much it, right? There's no other role-playing.
There's no Super Nintendo ones. There's no NES ones.
Right. There's no Super Mario RPG at all. There's no Final Fantasy. There's no Fire Emblem, right?
Nope. No Fire Emblem. Yeah, because I'm thinking even the Game Boy Advance version.
Oh, there's Fire Emblem on GBA and Mario and Luigi
that's true.
on GBA as well.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
You're right. So there's a couple.
What's the other GBA RPG? I'm forgetting. Oh man, it's what Blaze Knight really likes. That one series.
My Nintendo Switch is nowhere near me, so I don't have any way of looking this up.
Anyways, but yeah, it's just there's some GBA RPGs, and then that's pretty much it. I think that's the majority of your RPGs in Nintendo Switch Online. So
it's not a ton, but also PlayStation side, there's not a ton over there either. So obviously we have Wild Arms 1, 2, and 3. Because again, this is specifically asking about the classics collection, so not the new role-playing games that are in PlayStation Plus. You got Grandia, which is on PS1. And you got Legend of Dragoon as well. So that's another one. But that's it, because they only really have, PSP games and PS1 games is kind of what their deal is.
Yeah, I was trying to look actually what the list is, and I'm confused on what the classic collection is, because I it gives me a list, and I guess it's just all the games that able to stream up to PS3.
Yeah, see, we're not counting those. We're counting like
I see. Okay.
ones. And obviously, there are some PlayStation 2 games that are holdovers from the PlayStation 3 era, like Dark Cloud 1 and 2 are both on there.
Right.
Like those were like level 5 games for that. But you're right. Like I don't think like in the classic games catalog, I don't think there's a ton either. So actually, surprisingly enough, I might give it to Nintendo here.
Yeah, Paper Mario as well,
Yeah.
right?
That's true.
64.
Yeah.
So that's a big one.
This just makes me sad, because honestly, there should be more in the PlayStation section, and there just isn't, which is just because they've been so behind. A lot of the games they've been releasing are like either children's games or Jet Moto.
It's weird.
Or or a lot of the basically any game released by Sony Bend at this point. We just got
all the siphon filters.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Now, all their PSP games too, because they did like the Killzone spin-off game and then the Resistance spin-off game.
Killzone Mercenary.
Both of them on PSP, and those both came out too. So
got it. Yeah.
Both services, very disappointing. But definitely, I think when you lay it all out, I think PlayStation is actually probably more disappointing. So with the classic game library, anyways. Obviously, if you compare the wider net of PlayStation Plus with like the extra tier stuff, then like it's no contest that PlayStation Plus is better when it comes to role-playing games. But I do think with the classic stuff, Switch is probably better in the current moment. But
it's so weird. It's both PlayStation and I'm looking at IGN. They just lug all the games you can stream.
Yeah,
as a PlayStation Plus classic games catalog.
Because you got those Atelier games that you can stream.
You have a lot of Atelier games. Yeah. You got Star Ocean, 3 Star Ocean games.
Yeah.
You got Rogue Galaxy. You got a lot of stuff in here. Dark Cloud 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
So Wild Arms 3 on there.
Which I did mention that those are available as like downloadable games as well. You don't have to stream them.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because they were made available during the PS4 era, and they just happened to move them over.
Right. They just ported them over. Yeah.
Yeah, because we had a list of like 20 games that were ported from PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 4 during the PS4 era that then got released as part of PlayStation Plus when it first
we got Dragon's Lair and Dragon's Lair 2 Time Warp.
Yeah, there you go. You can play. I mean, the only game we're missing at this point, Garrett, is VIP, starring Pamela Anderson for the PlayStation.
The fourth time. There we go.
I love the fact that you're keeping count of this. It just makes me want to keep doing it more.
Ooh, rough.
Next up, we got Kevin Ainsworth, who says, the year of RPGs has already been great, and for PlayStation, we still have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Trails Through Daybreak, and now Ys X Nordics. What could be possibly ask for more than this? The answer, Kevin Ainsworth, is just more. We need MOAR RPGs. We need more RPGs. It's not enough to satiate us. We need Hyperdimension Neptunia Sisters versus Sisters at some point, it just needs to be.
Didn't that just get released?
It did just get released. But
yeah,
we need more than that.
Yeah, so those 3 games I probably won't play. But I'm happy for all the other folks out there who are big RPG fans for PlayStation.
It's a good year for Falcom fans. I'll say
it's a very good year for Falcom. I feel like it's a good generation for Falcom fans. They got all their games ported up and localized. So yeah,
nice. Next up, we got Nagashaka, who asks, which PS1 role-playing games would you recommend people check out on the PS3 digital store? This is an interesting question, because like Garrett,
it's very specific.
I don't think you even know what's on the PS3 digital store at this point.
Let alone,
I just don't think you've played a lot of PS1 role-playing games. So
no, not much.
I will tell you, Garrett, There is one game you can't play on the PS3 digital store, and that, of course, is VIP starring Pamela Anderson for the PlayStation 1. But
that's why I have a physical version of it.
And I brought it over to my desk because we were talking about it after the PlayStation Drive, because we were talking about like pure PS1 games that Fulia should play. This came up in conversation. Pepsi Man came up in conversation. We talked about a lot of good PS1 games. In fact, Garrett, if you've never seen Pepsi Man on the PlayStation 1 before, you should look it up after the show. That game is great.
Oh, I feel like I'm tripping on something. But seeing a Pepsi Man.
I mean, it's the only Pepsi themed video game on the PlayStation consoles, Garrett.
Is there other PlayStation? Oh no, Pepsi themed games in general.
There are other Pepsi themed games as well.
I'm done with this conversation.
There's also 7-Up themed video games too, Garrett.
No.
But anyways, getting back to Nagachaka's question about the PlayStation 1 games on the PS3 store. Yes. Obviously, my always go-to one, the most boring answer in the whole world, is Parasite Eve. Y'all should play that game.
Just play it.
It's $5 on the PS3 store. Like, what are you waiting for? You can even pick up Parasite Eve 2, and it's cheaper than on a trip to McDonald's at that point. Like, yeah, you may as well grab those. That's the boring answer. But I'm going to actually give you, Nagachaka, an answer that for a game that's really cool, but like most people don't talk about, and is also a very expensive game, but it's very cheap on the PlayStation Store. And this game is Vanguard Bandits. Have you ever heard of Vanguard Bandits before, Garrett?
I can't say that I have, no.
Okay. So Vanguard Bandits, first of all, it was another localized game from Working Designs, who localized, of course, Lunar, which you're playing right now. And this game's all about mechs. It's like a turn-based role-playing game. It's like a strategy role-playing game. It's got mechs, and it's really cool. This is a game that just nobody played because it was in very low supply, and reviews at the time were not kind to it because of the fact that the visuals were too similar to Super Nintendo style graphics. But as time has gone on, we've come to appreciate that more and more and more, because that's actually aged better than a lot of PlayStation 1 role-playing games. It's got, great cutscenes, and it's got full voice acting. Like, this game's pretty cool. And a lot of people just did not play it. They don't know it exists. And the fact that it's on the store for $5, whereas you could go on eBay and get a $300 complete copy of this game.
Ooh, buddy.
That's a good discount, and one that I recommend people get before it disappears from the store. So that's my recommendation. Vanguard Bandits. But also, come on, Nagachaka, what are you doing? Who even are you if you haven't played Parasite Eve yet? Especially Nagachaka, who I know likes Resident Evil and likes role-playing games. Like,
he would just be I feel like that would be the end all be all. That would be his game.
His favorite series of all time is Resident Evil, Garrett.
I know.
And he likes turn-based role-playing games. I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Perfect.
What are you doing?
I just hope a Parasite Eve remake exists, in some capacity. It would be really cool. Even just not even a remake, just like a remaster, just like, hey, this is kind of scaled up, and it's kind of like Tomb Raider. Just like, here's some new lighting, new skin overlay. I would be so down with that.
Honestly, Parasite Eve is one of those games that I fully expected that at some point they were going to give the same treatment that they gave to Chrono Cross or the Final Fantasy PS1 games, where they just release kind of the game as is, but with like little like enhanced features, and just call it a day. And you know what? I'd be fine with that.
I'd be totally fine with that. Yeah, I would get it for sure.
Yeah, I would be there day one. But heck, at this point, I would be fine with them just adding it to the PlayStation Plus catalog, because then I just have it because I already own the game on the PlayStation 3.
Question. Is there any Square Enix games in these services? Nintendo or even PlayStation Classic? I don't think so. I don't think they just want to bring them over.
So they have they have their modern games in like the extra tier or on Game Pass. But you're right, they don't have them in like the retro game sections of these stores. Although technically PlayStation called the Final Fantasy games that came to PlayStation Plus, and I'm using big air quotes on the video version, as like the classics, as where you basically, in order to play, I think Final Fantasy 10 or 12 or 9 on PlayStation Plus, you have to have premium because they're part of the classics game library.
Oh, okay.
Even though they were
That's
released on
interesting.
PlayStation 5.
Yeah, they're they're PS4 versions
Yeah.
of themselves. Yeah,
Same
interesting.
with like BioShock. The BioShock collection is in that same boat too. And I'm like,
Right.
really?
Oh, that's so weird.
BioShock? You sure about that? I thought this collection was the PS Plus Premium collection was saved for games that were on the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, or PlayStation 3, or PlayStation Portable. But
Right. That's a little weird. I don't like this blending of like, hey, here's some updated ports, and then you could stream some of these games from PS1, PS2, and PS3. It's just a little weird. But,
yeah. Well, no,
okay.
again, all the games that they've been releasing for PlayStation 1, 2, and Portable, you can stream them, but you can also download and play them. And they're also available.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying. Yes.
And they're all available a la carte from the store. So you don't actually have to have PlayStation Plus. You can just go buy them from the store. And they're usually $10, I think, to buy.
I think it's actually a la carte, and then sometimes they're not a la carte. Like,
yeah,
it depends,
there's a
right?
couple like that. Resident Evil Director's Cut for the PlayStation 1 is like that, where it doesn't have an a la carte version. I don't know why they did that. That's just what they did. But for the most part, if they were available on the PlayStation 3 store to buy, then generally they're available a la carte.
I see.
Or likewise, if you bought them on PS3, your purchase carries over. So you just download them when they come out.
And so it's really PS3 games is streaming.
Yeah, it's only the PS3 ones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So weird.
So if you want to play, Record of Egress War on the PlayStation 3, Garrett, like
you want to play the 4 Atelier games that are on PS3, but also on Steam.
Yeah,
I think they have PS4 versions of that in a collection of some kind too.
They probably do. I'm pretty sure they do, actually.
It's insane.
Because I think they've re-released almost all of the Atelier games at this point.
I think they did, because they had like 3 big trilogy collections of some kind. Yeah. Re-released. So there you go.
All right. Last question comes to us from Fulia, who says, I've been playing through Eiyuden Chronicles Rising recently, and I have really been enjoying it. Currently available on PlayStation Plus Extra Library. Like Fulia has talked about it on PlayStation Drive. She's actually playing it because of PlayStation Plus.
Nice.
And she didn't know the game was part of another game or even a prequel until she started playing it and researching it more. I feel like some other RPGs could might get more people playing them if they had a similar prequel style game. So my question is, what role-playing game do you think should have a short prequel to then kind of tee up the main game? This is a tough one.
That's a good question.
Because good question. I think it's a good question. I also feel like it's tough for me to say this about, like, recommend this for role-playing games that have like 100-hour long experiences.
Oh yeah.
So something like Persona 5, for example, like I don't think there should be a Persona like prequel
that'd be weird,
then lead into the official game. Like, I just don't think that makes a lot of sense. One of the nice things though about Eiyuden Chronicles Rising and then 100 Heroes though is that by them doing like a prequel kind of chapter or game, it allows them to do a game in that universe with the characters from the actual game, but in a different genre, which is interesting because Rising is like a side-scrolling action RPG, whereas the full game, as we know, is a turn-based role-playing game. So that could allow another company to kind of switch things up a little bit, because like one thing that you could do is like Final Fantasy 16 as an example could have had something like this, where they had like a prequel game that kind of sets up the world of Final Fantasy 16 in like a turn-based role-playing game format that then leads into the main game that's an action RPG. So then you satiate fans of turn-based games that then get invested in the story and then make them want to play Final Fantasy 16, despite the fact that it's a different genre and a genre they don't like. So,
called Final Fantasy 16-2.
Yeah. Or Final Fantasy 16 Rising, and then Final Fantasy 16.
0.5.
Yeah. Point 2, a fragmentary passage. Like Kingdom Hearts.
Exactly. I think that, I like the Final Fantasy one or 16 one for sure, just because you do kind of just drop in.
Yeah.
And like, hey, this is the world, this is how it is, and this is how the story's going to be for your main character. having a filler game, not a filler game, but like I wouldn't even say a prequel, just a game that can fill in like the time gaps in Final Fantasy 16 would be really cool. I would like it more, less arcadey and just more, I would say like a Final Fantasy 7 remake kind of mechanic going on where it is action, but also you could do a turn, like stop and do some turn-based stuff if you need to. Which that would be kind of cool. I think one game that really gravitated me to say is actually Sea of Stars. Because I think they did a pretty good job of like explaining the characters that are in the game, but there's a lot of characters that you meet down the road, and then also just side characters that they have a big backstory that I would like to see how they came to be in their situations. I know, isn't it the messenger is tied into the universe, so I don't know how much connection there is with Sea of Stars.
As far as I know of, there's not much, but I also haven't played Sea of Stars yet. It's on my list to play this year, but I have not played it yet.
There's a lot of cool background character thing like in like later on in the game, which I would totally like a prequel of. It's like, hey, let me play through this, or even just like a DLC of some kind. That would be pretty cool.
For sure. Yeah, a lot of times, a lot of these other companies will explore this kind of concept through DLC as well. Like we've got that Final Fantasy 16 DLC coming as well.
The second wave, because they've done the first wave so far, and I'm actually thinking about picking that up once the second wave comes out.
Yeah, and I'm all in to play it as well when the second wave comes out. I'm like waiting for that at this point. Because otherwise I don't want to play it and then come back to it later. So yeah. Not when there's so much Persona 3 to play, Garrett. So
we're getting there. I think we're about. It's crazy to think that we're like a little over halfway through a Persona game. After a few weeks, normally it takes months for those games.
No, honestly, I'd be probably much farther along if I didn't have I wasn't packing. But
that's true.
Getting ready to move has been tough. But like this, like after all this stuff is like all settled, like you better believe I'm like going all in with this game to like try and get to the end because I'm excited to finish it, and also because 7 Rebirth is like literally coming out in 7 days. So
it's around the corner, man. It's knocking on the door.
But I also talked about it on the show before. I'm like, do I even play 7 Rebirth at launch? Because like Unicorn Overlord's staring at me, and it's right there, man. And it's like I don't think I can finish 7 Rebirth in the time before Unicorn Overlord comes out.
That's
and I'm
good.
Like much more excited about that than 7 Remake, which is weird to say, but I'm just it's that much of a fan of Vanillaware that I'm much more excited about it. But anyways, that concludes all the questions for this evening. But before we go, Garrett, of course, we have to hear from our patrons, of course. Huge thank you to all of our patrons who support us over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. We're going to start with our ultimate producers, Tony Baker from the Quest 4 Pixels podcast. You can check them out over at youtube.com/Quest4 Pixels today. That's the number 4, Garrett, not the 4 spelled out.
It's literally the number 4. Got it.
Literally number 4. Also, we got Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the PlayStation Drive. You can check out his link tree, linktr.ee/pme.jib. Of course, the link is in the description of this podcast. Nice. Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team. You can check them out over at phoenixoverdrive.com. And of course, maybe come hang out with us at Extra Life 2024 this year. Just saying.
Oh,
dang. It'll be a lot of fun. And also Cwagmire, who humbly reminds you that the best babes are in fact Xenobabes, as well as our gold members, Adam K, Anna, Awesome Dave 1337, BobLoblaw, Bowsah, Brad Moore, Brian Reese, Cecily Carrozza, CrocoKyle, Dan and Luma, Dannohh, Emily O'Kelly, Jan32, Marcus O'Neill, Peje EP, and Tim Aulph. Thank you all again for all of our patrons, whether you're at the gold membership, the ultimate producer level, or even if you're just subscribed to the $1 tier. Huge thank you to our patrons. Y'all rock. And of course, links to all of our ultimate producers can be found below. Well, Garrett.
Yes.
Plugs go.
You can follow me on Twitter at Blind Explosion, and you know the rest. I'm on Discord. Talk to me. Okay. Talk to me all about Steam Deck, actually. Just nothing but Steam Deck and or other PC handhelds, because that's what I like to talk about a lot. So
you're one step away, Garrett, from being like Lachlan or Fulia and getting a garrettbland.card.co and then just having all your stuff there instead.
No, I would enjoy it. You know,
the one-stop shop,
all about it. One-stop shop
for Garret Bland. But as for me, find me on the old Twitter at Ryan Turford or X. I said Twitter, but then did the
old
X
Twitter. There we go.
X, go and give it to you. You can also find us on X at Carpool Gaming as well. YouTube.com/Carpool Gaming. Of course, podcast services around the globe. So for Garret Bland, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been the 124th level of the RPG Cave, and we're out. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.